Well, good afternoon, folks, and this is Liz from Little Red Barn Paw Print Pottery, and I'm going to do another little demonstration showing you something the way I make my honey pots or any lidded jars. Most of the time when potters do a lidded jar, they throw the jar first and then create the lid, and this requires getting 2 lumps of clay, one to make the jar and then a smaller one to make the lid. But if you can make a lid to fit a jar, why can't you make the jar to fit the lid? So I only use 1 ball of clay. I make my lid first, and then I make the jar to fit the lid. And this will make sense. It saves a lot of time and effort on your part, especially if you're trying to work in series and efficiently. You can go ahead and weigh out your lumps of clay to make them all even. I've been working on honey pots today. I'll show you what I've done so far. Here we go. And for this demonstration, and it's a good practice really. I often make lids for people who have old antique jars or whatever that don't have a lid, and you have to know what the shrinkage rate of your clay is to create a new one, but that's a whole different thing. We're going to start from scratch here with our clay. I've weighed out a little under 1.5 pounds of clay, and I'm going to do my last 2 because I'm going to work in a series of 6 today. For my tools, of course, I have my sponges and a ruler if you need to measure anything, a needle tool. I have this little carved out tool that does a pretty foot on the bottom, and a wooden rib tool. And you can see my hands are pretty messy already from what I'm working on. Now, if you happen to have calipers, you can use calipers. But I've been doing this for so many years that my eyeballing it pretty much is right on. Sometimes I even amaze myself. So I'm going to move what I've done out of the way. And I don't like a lot of discussion or saying shout outs to people that might be watching. That's good for some other potters, but not for me. I'm even faceless. You never see my face, which is a good thing. So we're just going to get right down to it, okay? So first thing you do is center that clay on the wheel. And in other videos, I showed how I did a series of dishes, throwing off the hump to do a whole bunch of little like saucer dishes off, and where I show where you pinch the clay. And pretty much making the lid is the same idea. You're going to kind of judge how much clay you're going to need for the lid. And it's usually just a finger's width. Works for me for honey pot lids, nothing really big. Of course, if I was making a bigger lid, it would be a whole lot more. So I've shown where I have put my finger in here for the finger's width. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to collar in the little top knob to make the knob for the lid, just sort of roughly an idea. You can refine it as you go along. And then with this bit of clay right here, I'm going to pinch it between my fingers. And as you notice, it spreads out. And this is what you want to make your flat lid that will go on your honey pot or whatever jar you're working on. And now I'm working to refine the knob. I'm pushing down, because you don't want to get an S crack underneath. So you're going to make sure that this knob is firmly push down. If the clay is too loose, remember we get those S cracks. You want to make it really nice and tight. So I think that will be just fine. Let's see, one other tool I didn't show. I have this little angled tool and a piece of fish line. Okay. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to just hold that angle tool up underneath here to create a groove so that I can evenly cut off my lid. line that up, pull it through, and voila, here's your lid. I'm gonna put that off to the side, and now I'm gonna make the pot. It's a good thing to go ahead and center that clay again, just briefly, because it's pretty much centered. You just got to get all the leavings from the lid back onto the clay lump. And making the honey pot is just like making a small bowl. Grabbing the clay from the bottom and working your hands up. Remember, I said I like to throw using a sponge, and I do that because the sponge holds the water well without having to put a whole lot of water into my pot. I'm going to belly it out. This adds volume, but I want to get near the top. I want to make sure that I have a flange for that lid to sit on. So I'll work on that. I'm making these honey pots about 4 inches tall. So the only thing I'll use the ruler for is just to make sure, and that's dead on 4 inches tall right now. I'm just going to make sure my bottom is very well compressed. One of the things that when you're working with height, the more you belly it out, sometimes the pot, well, most of the time the pot gets shorter. In this case, I'm taking clay from down here and putting it into the middle, and it's not really shrinking it that much. Let me check it one more time. Make sure, nope, it's still dead on 4. So I'm going to use this angle tool just to take off some of this clay from the bottom, and I think I would like a little bead on the foot, so I'm going to use this tool here. Get it wet. It makes a pretty little bead, like a foot, on the pot. Now you notice I'm not really worried about if the lid's going to fit or not. I'm going to check that in a minute. And there's 2 ways to do it. Pretty much I eyeball it, but if you want to, you can use your calipers to figure out how big to make the lid. I'm going to go ahead and, if you notice over here where I have the lid, I'm going to measure the lid. There we go. And come back over here and measure the inside of the flange, and it's pretty much dead on. I'm going to show you another way. I'm going to really reinforce this rim because it's a utilitarian pot and it's going to get a lot of use. And you want to make sure it's not going to be too thin and chippy. And you can see I can pick up by the knob very carefully and just hold it over here. I'm going to bring this in just a little bit more. And I'm pushing in with my thumb, and that's making the opening smaller. I'll try it one more time with the actual lid. It's pretty good. And it really doesn't mess up the knob too much. You can always smooth it out with a sponge, and you're good. So I'm just gonna, one more time. Oh yeah, that's perfect. Perfect. So this is how I make my pots with lids. It's much more economical for your time when you're doing things in series to go ahead and make the lid first out of the lump clay off the hump, and then make your jar. I mean, there's no reason why you can't do it. Most people think I'm doing it backwards, but I'm doing it in an economical way of my time, and that's my secret for today.